Hi, welcome to episode 3 of the Juan Keir Podcast. This time, it's not just Juan Keir, it's Juan Keir and Mr. Unai over here.
Dr. Unai, please.
Dr. Unai, sorry, we should be using
aspiring.
He didn't study all those years for us to call him Mr.
Yes. No doctorate though, so I depending on the country, I can flex or I can't flex itself.
Aye. Can always flex it. Well, we brought him in because he's one of our friends and he was interested in the podcast and wanted to talk about a topic, and so I'll let you introduce the topic that you wanted to talk about, and if you wanted to lead a little bit or ask questions.
Yes, the base of the topic is a mixture between conscientiousness, like the concept of grit itself, and they do have a lot of overlapping features and overlapping ideas within them, and how that affects individual decisions in one's life. Maybe even general countries or cultures' decisions, and how can one shape it, and how it changes throughout time, and how one can shape it towards to obtain a common goal.
If you're going to put like a headline, what's like the title of this podcast? It's like what do you want to say about grit these days? We're gonna have a headline like "Grit is dead, no more grit."
That's actually quite
getting into the nitty gritty.
I think that would be completely perfect because it's gritty, and also you have to get into it to understand it. But yes, like the first question you ask is quite interesting. Like first of all, I think we have to establish itself with like the concept of grit.
Okay.
More than.
You clearly are not a YouTuber because you have to start with the clickbait.
Okay.
You have to like say the headline.
Grit is dead today.
Okay, you have to say the inflammatory thing, yes. And then you explain it. This is like how the YouTube works.
Nowadays,
it's like an essay too. When you write an essay, you put your thesis statement at the beginning, and then you start doing definitions.
Okay,
you know?
I like to have a more scientific approach rather than.
You see, this is like the written argument versus the scientific.
I agree. So yes, I would say that grit is more than grit itself. It's an effort approach, and how the sustained effort affects the outcome and the whatever like somebody individually produces.
Outcomes and achievements of like individuals in society.
Exactly.
Okay.
So how like the importance of grit compared to talent, because I feel like throughout I'm quite a young person, but throughout my years, I feel like talent has been very
overemphasized.
Overemphasized, very thought of as the most important thing. And the more I read into it, the more I experience part of life. Again, being a very young individual, I feel like the grit and effort is more of an important thing there, and again, and also the conscientiousness part of the whole grit idea is the being able to make conscious decisions, positive decisions in your life, and how that can affect things from your job and your health and your family and relationship outcomes. And I think that's the general thing without any clickbait or any weird thing over there.
But grit is dead.
Grit is to an extent. There's actually a test called developed by Angela Duckworth, a great writer and one of my just a great psychologist in itself, who is one of the not maybe pioneers, but one of those who studied deep into the concept of grit. I think I'll speak later on about how the idea of grit was, the grit test and everything were created. But there's actually a test, and it does show that nowadays the younger you are, the less grit on the grit scale you have, which could be determined as
like new generations sort of like getting less on the grit scale.
The problem is there isn't sufficient longitudinal evidence to analyze if there's a change in grit, or simply you get grittier as you grow up because it's part of the experiences, maturity. You have kids, you have responsibilities. You can't
because you haven't been doing the test. Like this book was released 6 years ago.
2007,
more.
I believe.
I don't know if it's 2007 or 17. I know it. I feel like it has a few.
There was a follow-up kind of study to I think Angela Duckworth's work in 2017. I think her kind of main break into it was 2007.
Then the main break into it was
18 years of data, basically.
Yeah, but this the latest books and the latest publishing and everything also includes data and studies and meta-analysis from 2009. So I believe that even though the main ideas came from 2007,
it's been evolving and
exactly developed it. And as I was saying, there isn't enough evidence or enough longitudinal studies to show
too small of a time series.
Exactly. So one could say that one gets grittier as they grow up, or it could be very well said that our new generation isn't gritty enough, or anything. But I would say that it's a good introductory to the grit test analysis. I brought with me the grit test. I think we should be able to do it together.
We should do the grit test.
It's quite interesting to do it. I've already done it. I want to do it again because I did it already a few months ago.
Obviously, but you have to speak whilst we do the test.
Oh, of course,
right?
of course.
I feel like
you said first of all, it's only 10 questions. It's extremely simple. It obviously won't tell you completely accurate how gritty you are. It has a lot to do also with how gritty you feel you are.
Yeah, because it's like self-reported. I was going to say
self-reported. I think I got a very, very low grade. I feel maybe because possibly
maybe that's just because you underestimate yourself or something. It's possible. Because if it's self-reported, depending how if you overvalue yourself or undervalue yourself.
Exactly.
It might be wrong.
That's the main idea. So
the first one's already okay. Do you want to go question by question?
Go.
Sure.
Explain.
It's the first one says new ideas and projects sometimes distract me from previous ones, and this often happens to me. I would say that my motivation with this channel is the strongest motivation I felt because it's I think it's a really important subject, and it's not something that I'm interested in, and I've always been interested in politics and stuff like that. And as I've evolved, I've become more and more interested in politics and sociology and history. And so right now, I want this to be this project and career path that I'm taking to be a more constant thing. But I think about my previous YouTube channel with One Piece, and it's I did do it for a lot of time. I did 2 videos a week for a year and a half, and then I had to stop because I was doing project month there. But I also stopped because I stopped liking this show so much, and it's my grit to work on that channel was related to my love of the series.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's a problem with grit and hard work, but I also have books that I haven't finished, so I'm gonna put that this is a lot like me.
One of the
that puts it mostly like me, not very much, but mostly.
One of the step-by-step ideals of where grit is created. I think point number 1 is interest, which you were interested in the One Piece idea and everything, and also the practice and purpose. And if it's decently short interest, a shortly cultivated interest, you're not gonna put as much attention, or you're not gonna put as much effort. Makes it more than sense in that regard. But also I feel as I was reading more into Angela Duckworth's book, I realized that a lot of these questions could be rated or described or pointed higher, better rated by older people, because they had the chance in their old 20s, 30s, in the young 20s, 30s, to be able to choose those paths that properly interest them and then get consistent with them. So it is we're young, we're still exploring who we are. A lot of people have had, older people have had more time with themselves to establish that stuff. Right. So the next question, are you doing it too, Kieran?
I finished already.
Oh my
bro,
let's do it step by step.
Okay, goddamn. The idea is to discuss the questions themselves.
My score was 2.70.
It's okay. Let's all talk at the end. Oh my god, Kieran.
We can share the ideas, but
let's not spoil it.
Let's
talk.
It says
let's go question by question.
Score than 20% of Americans, which I don't know if that's.
What does it say about Americans?
Low bar.
Alright, setbacks don't discourage me. I don't give up easily. It's an interesting question. I think again, because I feel sometimes I've had reasons to give up on things that are valid, but how much is that cope? You know what I mean? The YouTube channel, for example. Yeah. At the end of the day, it wasn't making money, and I didn't see a career in that. So it was probably good to stop doing it and focus my time in other things. You know. But at the same time, I did give up.
Actually, for later
so
on,
I'm gonna put somewhat.
I would like to come back to that topic, because there is a clear understanding of those people that are successful choose 2 or 3 incredible important interests, and then take away other stuff. So it's not necessarily bad to be able to give up things that you realize they're not really worth it.
Okay.
But yes.
I often set a goal, but later choose to pursue a different one. Man, this is like killing me.
It's so bad.
Right now.
It's so bad.
Right now,
I did it and
right
I felt
now,
so bad.
I'm like in the various like I've completely done a career change recently. I feel for good reasons. I feel because it was a hard choice to make, right? And I'm saying no to job interviews in the career that I previously had. That is like a pretty well-paid career in the country I live in, and like a pretty well-paid career globally if I chose to go somewhere else.
I agree.
But like, I'm choosing to not pursue that because I'm doing something that I think is more important. But I mean, I hope that in 20 years I can say no to this question. But right now the answer has to be yes.
Yeah.
Right now the answer has to be very much like me.
I think it's quite interesting for me to see the answers I would give at certain points in time. My first couple years of university, I think like the second question, setbacks don't discourage me. It would have been very much like me.
Okay.
But then one develops and one learns. It's part of the idea of the concept of grit develops as one grows up and one becomes older. And yeah, the goal, I think that for me the last 3 years has been more individual, more realizing what I actually want. It also makes sense because it's at the end of my university career, which is pretty freaking long for the goal that I took. Yeah, for medicine.
But this is why you should have done it with us, because like you could have been giving your opinion on the questions for you.
Like,
how do you feel about like, have you set goals for yourself that you've abandoned and stuff like that?
See, there's the thing with myself. When I decide to set a goal, it's not kind of like on a whim. Like my way of setting goals isn't how some people would set goals, like New Year's resolutions, which is I'll start going to the gym this year, and then inevitably in like a few months they discard it because they fall through.
I don't think it's inevitable, but it's
I'm saying some. Like how a lot.
But yeah, I agree with you. Like
I can't go the other way. Like if I'm gonna set a goal, is because ultimately
you're very
made
serious
my
about
mind
it, yeah.
and plan.
It's not an impulsive goal.
Or if anything,
you don't make
if
them
I have
lightly.
impulsive goals, I'll sit down and try and think like what.
But what did you answer in this question then?
I mean, I said if I said like somewhat like me, because like
Somewhat,
I wouldn't say I wouldn't also sound like the most energetic go-getter ever. I don't have abundant goals. If I choose goals, I'm pragmatic about them.
Okay, I want to kind of speed forward because like we're trying to be below 45 minutes this episode. So
let's continue.
I'm going to go to the next question, which is I am a hard worker. This was so difficult for me because I think that like when I'm in like a physical place like filled with people doing work with me, I'm like the hardest worker. But if I'm alone in my house like doing homework or something when I was a kid, I'm the laziest worker.
And that's
so it's like it's very weird because like teachers loved me in school, but then they would be like, why didn't you like hand in the homework? And it's because like I didn't do it.
I don't think that's really weird. I feel like a lot of people have that problem. I must have had that problem. That's why I go to library.
Yeah.
Even nowadays, like the university library, I'm not longer enrolled in the university.
I'm gonna say somewhat like me because I think that like I have both extremes. And I think the only fair thing is to put it in the middle.
I would say mostly like me. I feel like once
I think you're more than me. So I would agree with that for you. Do you want to say what you said?
I said very much like me.
Okay.
I mean, that point you made about like if it's not like impersonal, I guess it's more a question of like if I'm not accountable to anything, my productivity and more essentially to this question, like perseverance will wane because nobody's watching me. Like there's no reason, like there's no pressure or system that will try and correct me. But when in person, like or in group settings, work suddenly becomes much more
easier.
pressing.
Yeah.
Well, not easier, but like at least there's a sense of urgency or need.
It feels like more. I can't even describe it as like a need or something. I'm just like it almost seems like easier to do. It almost seems like I'm more inclined to do it.
You're
like,
more in a workflow state.
Yeah, exactly. I go in a workflow state. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. All right, let's keep going. I have difficulty maintaining my focus on projects that take more than a few months to complete.
This is interesting because I feel like there's a lot of individual topics which I have that problem, or little projects that I have that problem with, but then I see the big ones in my life, and I feel like they're generally consistent. Like take a career, or when I take like a sport, like now it is climbing, or I've been going to the gym for however many years now already.
Oh my!
For whatever, I feel like I managed to consistently do them. But then I remind myself of the little ones being like super excited for like a month or a couple of weeks or whatever, and then I just leave them because the motivation not there, and I just feel they're not.
I think for me, it's
like our D&D campaign.
To be honest, I put a lot of effort there.
But the thing is, like, it's a lot of effort, but like it's hard to finish. It's like there's like the thing you can't have like 10 projects that you do all at the same time. This is the problem. And there's a lot of like what I've been doing. Like I've been like working on like there's like novels and like a short story. The short stories are easy because I can just write it in a week and then it's in a collection, right? Mm-hmm. But like the novel, that's so much work to be consistent or something like that. And so like maintaining my focus on projects is like, no, it's not like me at all. I feel like I have to say that it's not like me at all. Like I really struggle with that. Maybe not much like me because like the YouTube channel right now I'm pretty focused in, but yeah, it's difficult. I think my score's gonna be so bad.
Yeah, mine is.
Oh my god, my score's gonna be so shit.
Okay, this one is a hard one. I finish whatever I begin.
I mean, I know that's not much like me at all. That's not much like me at all.
My interests change from year to year.
Not really.
That's not much like me, because like they do change, but they're like
the
very slow. Like it's just like, for example, I did the One Piece YouTube channel, and it's like I was still interested in YouTube. Now I'm doing YouTube in a different way, and so like my interest in One Piece waned with time, for example, but it's not like year to year. I wouldn't say year to year. And I think we're also young, so like these evolutions. I'm gonna say that's not.
I feel like one thing is your projects change from year to year, and then your interests change year to year.
Yeah,
it's something different.
I say.
Okay, and I said like not much like me or.
Oh fuck! I hate this 8-1 because it's like,
I am diligent. I never give up. If it were only the first phrase, I think I'll be more like inclined to put a higher grade there. Once I put I never give up, I know I've given up on a few things.
Yeah, I've given up for sure. Like I had a really hard time like one of my last years in college. I even had to withdraw. So like I guess like definitionally very much like me, right?
Yeah, I gave up.
I feel like to be fair with myself, like it was a lot of like workload, and I was going through like I had like personal issues, and like the depression cycle led to like the workload balance being like terrible and everything like that. So it's like I want to be fair with myself, but I feel like if I'm being like objective, I have to put high there. My grid score's gonna be fucking terrible. Yeah. But I think the nice thing about the grid score is I don't think like whatever we have here is for life.
For sure.
Because these questions seem to me like I'm better. Like I've changed within these questions.
That's why I'm doing it again. Because
right?
I've done this test 4 months ago, which I got a 2.6, so I got lower grade than you have right now, and I don't know what I'm gonna get right now, or 2.4. I know that I was like in the under 20th percentile, like just above the 20th percentile, something like that. Okay,
I'm gonna put mostly like me for I am diligent, because it's not like I fail at everything. I'm gonna do mostly like me. Maybe that's cope, but this is the problem with being self-reported.
Yeah.
The thing with like that question, I am diligent and don't.
I never give up.
Never, you can also look here.
I feel like those.
I mean, never is binary, right?
Yeah,
so it should be like there should be a yes/no question.
No.
If you've never given up, you can put yes. If you've given up, you have to put no.
I think diligent and never giving up should have been two separate categories. Because diligent,
I feel like
more than anything, diligent would mean when you are doing something, you're doing it like consistently, attention to detail. Giving up is a separate thing.
I agree, but then maybe that's why they ask I'm a hard worker at one point, and then
giving up. So yeah, I think I'm a hard worker.
The same way, like they ask more about the projects, and then the interests change.
Like if you said if someone who came to this question, I'm not saying as a criticism as a whole. I'm just saying someone who's like extremely hardworking, but he's I don't know, like he gives up quickly because
then he's not a hard worker.
No, but what if it doesn't also analyze? I'm saying I know this is unfair because it's a 10-point questionnaire.
Yeah,
like somebody who gives up maybe because of like I don't know, they realize it's not productive, it's not going to lead to long-term results. It's not the same as somebody who just gives up because.
I agree. The thing is, the difference is that person is able to analyze what's not worth it in the future and giving up, which I feel it's a positive thing, and then you see the person that constantly gives up on the same individual topics and going around and giving up on more and more things and never managing to focus more than X amount of time into something and that creates a positive outcome out of it. Like grit isn't only hard to work when it comes to burst an individual, but also like maintaining a constant focus even in moments where you're not so motivated towards it or you have a problem in front, but you have to overcome it.
Yeah, but I mean, we'll have more time.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Next one.
I have been obsessed with a certain idea or project for a short time, but later lost interest.
It feels so bad to hear this.
The thing is, like, it's not necessarily that like I've lost complete interest. It's just like I have to do other stuff, or like, for example, like when I was doing like the YouTube, and then I had to stop because I was doing my like finals weeks, and then like I was like writing, but then like I started my job as a data scientist, and it's like my time to write really went down because my social life went up.
Yeah.
Right, like I was living in the U.S. and like I had no friends, which means I had ample time for the writing. But then when I moved to Spain and like I realized I needed the human-to-human connection, and so like the work plus human-human connection plus working out, that became like a time sink.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a time sink. This is good. It's like
Yeah.
a good use of time. So I don't want to say that this is like that I lost interest in it, but I'm gonna put like somewhat like me. I think
I'll have to be.
I'm gonna
frank,
put
I just
somewhat like me.
bounce around from ideas quite often.
You think there's a reason for that exactly, or?
I don't know. I mean, I think maybe like my personality is quite. I wouldn't say I'm a sustained like effort. It's usually like
Burst.
because otherwise I'll just frazzle myself.
Mm-hmm.
So if I spend like too much time trying to just go like 100, eventually I'm just gonna burn out.
I feel like
Yeah.
everybody, but it's
Yeah.
knowing where you need a bit more effort rather than.
And then sometimes like many times like my interest in things, it's not like it just goes up and then completely collapses, but it's rather more cyclical. It goes in waves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know, like surely like it's like with a book sometimes you can read like 100 pages in a go, and then I mean in my case for months not touch it again, but then just get straight back in.
Also, I think the importance would
Mhm.
be to find the correct book. The same way in life, everyone finds the correct path to choose.
Yeah, that's true. Because if it's
And
if it's a good book,
so
then I'm gonna be really focused on
so
reading it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the last one.
I have overcome setbacks.
The thing is, like, it's all comparative, right? Because it's like, and it's hard to be comparative to other people's lives. Because I see people, I see things that they do, and I don't know if I could have done that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I've overcome things that to me were difficult, mostly like related to like my own well-being and stuff like that, or challenges like I don't know, like I did the Camino Santiago recently and did like I did a lot of exercise. Like my legs were destroyed by the end of that, right? And like. Honestly, like every time, a lot of times I went like, oh, I'm going to this place today. And they're like, what? You're doing that much distance today? And it's like, well, clearly some people thought it was difficult. So I'm going to say that somewhat like me. Because I think that there are like the failure to overcome certain maybe like one of my like things I'm most proud of is like failing, like when I withdrew and then like going back and graduating still, like not letting that define me. Like, but obviously like I have opportunities that other people couldn't have maybe done that because like my parents paid for like that extra year of school, right? Like if if I hadn't been like if I got more second chances than probably other people could have gotten, and so that's like it's hard for me to say that it's very much like me, even though that feels like to me like an achievement. So I'm gonna put somewhat like me, mostly like me. I'm gonna say the thing is like I think I'm gonna change. I think my grid score right now is gonna be really low, but I hopefully like within more time it's gonna be higher. But let's get my score. Okay. It's not terrible.
It's much better than I think maybe
mine is 2.9.
Mine right now is 3.2, which I believe is too much.
So
of a
yeah,
big change.
I'm like you here. I'm like scored higher than about 20% of Americans adults, which means I am.
Let's go.
I have less grit than 80% of them. So
yeah, it's.
But you see, to be fair, there's like this. Though I got the fuck out of the U.S. because like the U.S. like that shit. The only way you survive is by being extremely gritty.
Right now, I have a 3.2 scale. I like grit score. I feel like comparatively.
How many you're 30%? I feel like it's also because you're young. I think like being young. Okay, the more I'm doing it, the more I think that being young is the thing because I think that you're like the people I know, you're like pretty high up there in like our age gap of like how gritty I think you are. So like if you are like the 30th percentile, which would be shit in like any test.
Yes.
Like that must mean to me that like older people, you just get older because like to me it's ridiculous. Either our whole generation is fucked, or like when we get older we'll have better scores.
I actually brought the book. I think I'll look later on the average grit score for our age, which it's again it's a bit different. And the thing is, I don't know if I got a 2.6 or a 2.7 or a 2.5, something around those numbers before, and maybe the conscientious decision of trying to maintain those goals and trying to keep those. But basically, reading the book has proved like made an impact on me to trying to be more gritty and conscientious in the choices that I make and the things that I do. So maybe that's why it increased so much in just a few months, because I personally feel like it probably haven't changed that much itself. It's just I've been more aware of that. But yeah,
it's very interesting. Well, that's our score. If I'll put the link in the description if you want to do it yourself.
Interesting.
That might be very interesting. Okay, so
which
is there another topic? It's like we've talked a lot about like the individual and our experiences. I don't know if you want to keep talking about the individual, but we can switch to like Is there something that you feel we failed to talk to about grittiness when it comes to the individual?
The actual impact of output created by a great individual and how good it predicts you to be how much it produces you to create.
Yeah, like how much success you'll have in life as an indicator.
Exactly. The idea of the grit score came from the Beast, so the Beast barracks. It's from the West Point. Once you were accepted to West Point from the
there's a military academy in the US.
It's like the officer school for
exactly. It's the officer school. There's like the whole candidate score in which there's a mixture of like SAT scores and sports and diplomas and everything, and they believe that that's what defined you and that's what made you be able to pass the Beast barracks, which is like 7 weeks of grueling, intense, 14 hours a day. Work and in like mental, physically like training, and it's very hard to say that way. And they realized there wasn't really a correlation between the whole candidate score and the possibility of getting out of
succeeding in
exactly about 50 to 40% of the candidates drop out in these barracks. So it's incredibly important. And also one realized that trying to obtain individuals for like trying to assess the individuals that get into your West Point Academy, and the whole assessment having nothing to do with the probability of them finishing the Beast barracks or not, it's quite negative. So that's where the whole idea of a couple of psychologists, part of the West Point and the Army Academy, created this grit score and everything. And they realized later on that not only the whole candidate score wasn't a good idea to see how much they pass, but also that it's a better predictor in many cases. Some meta-analysis, some individual papers. It was the grittiness and the grit score was a better indicator of success in life compared to IQ.
I completely agree with that. I mean, that's like my own experience. Like I was like that like smart kid burnout kind of like stereotype, in the sense that it's like I was always like the best at math and stuff like that in school. Like to a point that like I probably even taught my classes in the last 4 or 5 years, because like the teacher would just go out of the class and I would like go on the the whiteboard and be like, this is how you do it, you know what I mean? Yeah. But like I myself have not like I didn't graduate school in the 4 years that should have been the case. I didn't have the possibly like ever highest grades in that, and so in that sense, like to me it's very clear that like the people who are able to like achieve goals are the people that are like very diligent and hardworking and like confident about that being what they want, right? And so like to me it's pretty clear that, and very intuitive, that grit would be an indicator for success. And I think that like certainty and willpower is like really important for success in life. And obviously the nice thing is I don't think that it's like something you're born with. I think that every person has like their own, like there is some innate sense. But I also think that grit is something that you can like work out for yourself. Maybe like how much energy you have like physically is something that's genetic. But like other than that, like I don't really think so.
Like pretty much like every single phenotype or most phenotypes, there's a certain sense of genetic material needed, and like environmental factors needed to be able to produce that outcome, to be able to produce that phenotype. But one of the very important factors to calculate or to estimate how gritty somebody is conscientiousness, which is being proven to be mainly genetic.
Can you explain like conscientiousness?
Conscientiousness is, I would say, is more the ability to realize and analyze decisions you make, not necessarily not doing it impulsively, but once you start doing impulsively or you realize that, you look more at the long-term effects that it has rather than the short-term effects. For instance, obesity is a great idea there. They're seeing some genetic factors to obesity, but then they realized it was more the genetic factors of the decisions people make. So if you go to McDonald's and you see somebody fat, you will ask them, do you think that's healthy? And they know it's not healthy. They know they're gonna gain weight because of that sense, but they will either suppress the idea of not having it because it's unhealthy, or they would just simply not think about it. And it's it has quite a correlation with grit. It's one of the main aspects of grit, because it's the same sense of it's 8 a.m., 7:30, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., whatever, when you wake up. And am I going to stay in bed for 20 more minutes? Am I going to stay in bed for 1 hour? Or am I going to go in the library and start working before? Knowing the effects that it can create.
I like this idea of grid, and I'm thinking of it like as a vector, in the sense that you have like a direction and a magnitude. And like there's like the conscientious part is like the arrow, like where it's pointed. And like the magnitude is like the amount of effort and hard work that you put into it. So it's like... So like if the arrow is pointing away from where you want to go, that's like your conscientiousness is not good enough and taking you in the wrong direction. So you even might be putting in a lot of effort. You might be putting in like as much effort as anyone. But if the arrow is pointing in the wrong direction, or it's like 30 degrees off, it's going to take you more time to get to the point you need to get to. Because like the arrow is pointing in a different direction.
To an extent, yes. But also conscientiousness is not just the arrow of the decision you make. But the conscientiousness is I want to get up from studying whatever thing you've already decided. I'm just gonna stay there. So the arrow is a mixture of factors, and conscientiousness is part of it, of deciding what career path you take, whatever you take. But conscientiousness is more I'm going to go to the checkup, even though the hospital is 1 hour and 20 minutes away. Because there are so many... I've seen... Like, I haven't had a long-term experience in the hospital. I've only been in total... I'd say a couple more than 2 years worth of actual working time in the hospital or in healthcare service and everything. And there's just people that don't show up. There's people that just don't take the medications. There are people that it's either you lose weight or you have to have a life, risking whatever surgery, and they will choose the surgery because they were not choosing losing weight. And that's also making conscious decisions. It's not just the grittiness of it. Of course, it has a lot of overlapping factors, just a bit different.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, we have like 10-15 minutes to go. Do you want to switch to a topic on a different
maybe we can speak about... I haven't looked much into it. The general... Well, haven't researched deeply into it. The how consciousness and grit affects countries, cultures, and groups of people.
Yeah, we can talk about... I was more... can we talk first? Do you have like the average like conscientiousness scores for people our age? Because I think that... Oh, do you need the bag or something? Yeah. 1 second. We're getting out of camera.
Thinking,
because I am curious as to like... Because I would think that I am a... Maybe I'm being unfair with myself, but I would think that I'm a average to low grit individual. It's like, I hope to get better, but like I think that like...
I would also say that, but then I realized that things I've done in life for my age... Oh, look. Average grit scale from 25 to 34 is 3.45.
Okay, so yeah, we are very much below average.
We are very much below average.
We are very much below average.
I'm assuming this is this American?
This is America?
Yeah, American adults.
Large sample of American adults.
Here.
Okay, maybe in Spain it would be like 1. Joking. There's a lot of...
This could be misleading results in the sense that, at least from what I can perceive, the American cultural mindset is one of... actually a term that's quite linked to this, like rugged individualism. Where for a lot of Americans, more than anything that defines someone as like a good leading role model is grit, like perseverance.
I agree.
But I think this also causes people to actually try and... If this is like a leading trade model, like aspiring trait, then people will obviously try and emulate that.
I agree.
I mean, obviously, like I have a very big problem with like the methodology in the sense that it's self-reported. To me, this is a very big issue.
It's psychology.
But it's like because like cultural effects, like it's even hard depending culture to culture, because like what do people think about themselves? What do they want to believe about themselves? It's all very cultural.
I agree.
And so like...
And all of it also comes from comparison of individuals. So you could see a culture being extremely gritty because, there's differences in cultures. And I think one of the best way to explain or to see how gritty one culture is putting the example of Asian immigrants in the US. A lot of Asian immigrants, like Vietnamese.
I mean, immigrants are self-selected to be more gritty because like you wouldn't have left if you didn't have grit.
I agree to an extent, but then you see.
But like especially in the US because you have no safety net.
Exactly.
In Europe it's different because you have a bigger safety net.
Yeah.
But like especially like immigrants in the US are self-selected to be more gritty.
But what I want to say is like not only are they self-selected to be more gritty, but coming from the extreme harsh background in a couple 3 generations, the percentage of doctors, of engineers, of lawyers coming out from those immigrant backgrounds exactly, is higher than the national average.
Mm-hmm.
So you can really see partially the genetic conscientiousness idea, the cultural grittiness they have compared to the people there.
I think that being said, with at least with this immigration line, is as you said, like the people who've traveled abroad to new culture, new country.
It's obviously hard already.
Obviously, it's going to be hard. So it's a bit self-selecting in the sense that only people who are willing to. But also, like, there's also an economic angle. Like, only people who actually have money and presumably a higher education are more likely to emigrate.
I disagree there.
The US
in
the US is like both. It's like the two extremes.
It varies
it's like the very high will go and the very low will also go because they can't.
Yeah.
Like the middle stays.
Many people are actually forced to leave the country.
But like bro,
I feel like those aren't like the amount of Vietnamese.
I'm telling you, bro, if I have money, I'm not going to like
Manchuria
I'm not
area.
walking the fucking like jungles of Panama.
Literally.
No, but refugees are one category of people, which is more broadly general. Because you divide.
So for you divide refugees and immigrants in a way, or what?
I would say that in some cases, like if you say there's a higher percentage of like people of immigrants who are now becoming doctors, lawyers, which are generally speaking highly skilled professions, it's more likely that the people who become doctors and lawyers have a reason to become so, and it's because they've had the chance to become educated at a high level, and they've had the money to pursue these degrees. Because I'm assuming medicine is expensive.
Medicine in the US, like here, like for me, it was only €7 per month.
No, so I'm just
but that's probably like
I'm just saying there's an issue with the sound.
Yeah, but I feel like the biggest. I mean, I agree with you, and there's going to be an increase in probably to get there. The thing is, generally, those immigrants, Asian immigrants coming from Manchuria, coming from Vietnam, coming from those areas, they really weren't like didn't come for money. The economic and social background didn't help them to get to that point. And most of the problem, especially in the US, to get into university, it's not the money.
That's more nowadays.
Yeah,
but
like
even money is more. No, but money's more a problem nowadays than it was before. Before, money didn't used to be a big issue.
Even if it's money, people that go into medical school, they know they're going to earn that money back. It's not a really problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's also true.
I don't think that's an impediment in the sense of studying itself, maybe in a sense to get there, but the biggest impediment is the grades you have, the things you do, and coming from a second, third generation immigrant family, and really getting into those extremely hard medical schools and programs, it shows that the culture is extremely gritty. And you can also see
I would agree that Americans are more gritty than most people. Like not all of them. Like I think that, as I said, like I think that immigrants have like more grit even within America. But I think America, because it has no safety net, but because there's also like so much of a positive incentive.
I agree.
There's like a huge positive incentive to make money in the US. That like people who have the energy and are tired of receiving little money.
They know they're
gonna get money there. And so like it is kind of in that sense, which is why I think that like my opinion with like grit is that I think that societal factors and like the way the countries are structured are really determinant of like people's grit within that society. And as like in the case of Spain, like apparently there's like this like stat that like more than 50% of the youth would recommend a job in like the government instead of like the private sector. And it's like, and are thinking about doing like the oppositions that you have to do in Spain to get a government job. And I think that's like, it kind of shows you that it's like they're like longing for like that stable government job, even though it's not that much money. It's like a good amount of money for Spain. It's like very livable. It's like it's super livable.
A lot of times for the work they do, it is a lot of money.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
And then but then once you come to the monopolized government jobs such as resident doctors in the first, third, fourth year, getting literally minimum wage per hour that they work, they could earn more in whatever fast food place.
Yeah.
Then you can see people why they want to go to private sectors, why like me want to go outside of Spain.
Yeah.
I'm leaving High Germany.
But like obviously for like, I don't want to say like low skill, but like for jobs that are government jobs that require less training, don't require a career, like people go towards that. And it's like because like they see the stability in it.
50% of the youth don't want high.
But the problem that it does is that it also becomes a burden on the private sector and makes private sector wages lower, which is kind of like a vicious cycle. And so like there's this stereotype, and I think that it's obviously like when you say that like some people are lazy or not, it's completely like talking about generalizations and trends, because there are really hardworking people in Spain. There are really hardworking people that live here. And we can't be like they don't exist.
But it's a Gaussian curve.
But it's like, it's a Gaussian curve. And I would say the grit in Spain, in my opinion, would be like lower than it would be in the US.
I agree with that.
Because the US doesn't have the safety net.
The forces and
because
the
it's like you can't survive in the US without being gritty.
If you fall, you're in the street.
In the US, you can't survive without being gritty. You're not going to procreate. You're not going to live. You might even die of like overdose or something if you're in the streets. So I think that societal, like the way that we structure societies is so important, because it's like how the people themselves start to live. And I don't think that there should be no safety net necessarily. I think that there's like, because let's say if we have a hyper-capitalistic system based on competition, and then someone loses that competition, then it's like, okay, well, that person should maybe not get all the rewards, but like at least be able to live and retrain to be able to compete again.
Not only for the individual ideas, but because it's good for society.
Yeah, it's good for society, of course. And so like I think that there should be a safety net. Perhaps it shouldn't be as big as it is in Europe. In certain places.
In certain places, it's very.
Like I don't know all of Europe. Like I'm very much speaking in generalities, and I'm speaking in hypotheticals more importantly, because I don't really know all the specifics. But I think that like in my interpretation, like one thing that I also want to say is like wages, like purchasing power for like younger people has been strategically like going lower and lower throughout like the last 5 decades. And in my opinion, like I read this to you is like because like. I mean, the real wages have not kept track with real costs of cost of living, and so like another thing that's happening in the U.S., which is like very capitalist, and China is also pretty like hard work, very gritty society these days, where like there's not that much of a safety net, and requires you to work like the 996, right? Like 9 to 9, 6 days a week, which is crazy. Like in Europe, that would be like a crime. They would jail you for being an employer that does that.
Unless you're a resident doctor and they pay you minimum wage.
Yeah.
At least the thing is in China with. In response to the 996 schedule.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like people have started to like give up. People have started to like do the lay down. Was that what you're gonna say?
Yeah, it's a typing movement.
Yeah,
lying
exactly.
Flat.
Yeah, lying flat. But like in the US, it's also been stated that young people have stopped trying to go for promotions because like they studied like work-life balance and stress, and basically like the monetary reward that they're being offered is not worth the extra stress in their lives. And to me, that makes perfect sense, right? Because it's like you know how hard I'm gonna work at a job. Like you know how like I'm gonna work 50 hours a week as a janitor if you tell me in 5 years I'll have a house. Like I'll do 60. You know what I mean? If you confirm it to me.
Something quite interesting the way you put it there. One of the step-by-step grit ideas is like, as I said, first of all, interest, practice, purpose, and the fourth point is hope. Hope that you will be able to overcome your setbacks, and
there's no hope, exactly. And like society has to be like so. You can give yourself
hope, if the purchasing power is falling so back, if you know you're not going to be able to buy a house, especially in certain jobs, in certain markets, certain places, if the hope is not there, you're not going to be as gritty. It's one of the main things.
I think it's interesting. I'll let you speak there, but like that, the hope is getting lowered in all countries. It's not just like Spain or just the US. So, but yeah, you can.
I was glad kind of hope and purpose or both things were brought, because at least in psychology it has been shown that like grit, or at least perseverance or willpower, I mean these are all interchangeable terms really, but I mean
they're overlapping.
They're interchangeable in the sense that they come.
I think like willpower and grit are very similar things.
Yeah, I mean perseverance, I guess. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. In the 50s, I think it was. Well, there was an experiment by Albert Bandura. Early psychology was known for being much more cruel and callous. But in this experiment, what they did was they put dogs in electrified cages, and it's kind of like a puzzle like that to try and get out. But what happened was with dogs that they just electrified constantly with no clear reason as to why, and there was no indication whatsoever they could like break out. They'll just give up. They just collapse on the floor, like lie down and give up.
Purpose and hope. Point 3 and 4.
Yeah, you need.
It's called learned helplessness because they realize nothing they can do. Like if somebody realizes there's no possible way.
Like, why would you put effort if you realize that there's nothing you can possibly do?
But this is the thing. They would shock these dogs, unfortunately, until they gave up, and then they'll open the door,
and it would stay there,
and they'll see it, and they just think there's no point because before obviously it was like completely arbitrary.
Interesting, cruel, but
yeah, they had to overhaul.
They had to.
There was another.
Listen. I those experiments were fucked up, but like the Milgram one is so interesting to me and stuff like that, and I'm glad they did that. I'm glad they did that really fucked up shit, so we didn't have to. We could just learn from them.
There was another experiment. At least they did these with. I mean, I'm not advocating for animal cruelty, but at least they did with animals.
None of us are.
But there's another one. Another experiment they did was they grabbed rats and threw them into a bucket of water, like with no easy way to get out, and they just record them to see how long it'll take them to drown. I know it's cruel, right? But they just throw rats into a bucket which is impossible to escape from, and they just see how long it takes for them to drown. I think it was like a couple of minutes. And then they did the same experiment again, throwing rats into a bucket. But then what they did was after a few minutes, they'd pick the rat up out of the bucket, essentially saving them, and then throw them back in after a few minutes. In that second time, the rat's time floating, like trying to swim, went up from like a couple of minutes to like 60 hours. Which means, but then they did the same thing with wild rats because they're using domesticated rats, and wild rats are known for being really great swimmers. Like, I mean,
they are known for that.
They're in the amongst many others.
Everybody does.
Everybody here should know that. You didn't know that.
No, wild rats are known for being really good swimmers. I mean, they dominate sewer systems for a reason. Like, you know, it's easy for them to get around. But even wild rats, who supposedly are great swimmers, and more essentially, you'd think they have like a reason to just not give up because they're feral. You know, it's demanding. You know, it's evolutionary sense. They have to fight to live. They gave up after 2 minutes because they had no reason to believe there's any way out of it. After 2 minutes, they give up
because they don't depend on humans for anything.
But the rats that were picked, it's not that they depend on humans. It's just they had an indication that there is a way out of this. So when they saw the guy pick them up, I was like, oh great, he saved me. Actually, there is a way out. Like, I just have to hold out until he comes back.
But the wild rats
rats obviously have no indication that.
Therefore, we can conclude that young people are less gritty because house prices are too high.
I would agree.
Like, I mean, to an extent,
I genuinely think like the hope part of it is kind of dying, and like, and sometimes we also have like more distractions in our modern world, which can make like the interest things like, oh, there's too many things to do. That could also be something that's like going against grit, which is like societal and just happening everywhere,
and also stops practice because if there's constant interruptions in your life, you're not
exactly, that also happens. But I think that both the hope and the conscientiousness is like waning, because I think that like in my opinion, because like I think like if you have more things to do, then like you get more distracted like naturally. But I'm gonna start. I think we should wrap up there because like it's already been like over 45 minutes. So, and I think it's been a really interesting conversation.
It has.
I think Unai will come back for perhaps another tech. Maybe we're gonna ask him about the healthcare systems in different countries.
Yeah, I mean,
it could be that. It could be something else. But I think this is a great conversation. Thanks for being on.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'll see you on the next one. We'll see you guys in the next one.